Reading from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, Adikanda, Chapter 1. Chaitanya becomes the master of all different scriptures. There is no one in the three worlds to challenge his erudition. The Adikanda describes the Lord sporting with his fellow students in their water pastimes in the waves of the Ganga. Then come the Lord's first marriage and the glorious disappearance of his first wife. He duly accepts a second wife, the daughter of a regal scholar. Once he appears to be sick from a disorder of the life airs and takes the opportunity to reveal the symptoms of Krishna Prema. While the Lord roams about as a great scholar, he empowers all the devotees who surrender to him. This narration of the early life of Sri Chaitanya includes a description of the immense joy upon Sachi Mata's face when she looks upon the moon-like, blissful face and the graceful manner and clothes of the Lord. Then Nimai Pandit piques the pride of a scholar who has renowned as Digvijaya, the world's conqueror. Ultimately, the Lord slashes away the scholar's material bonds. The Lord puts everyone, even his devotees, into illusion about his real identity. And he roams the streets of Navadvip, unknown to all. There is also a description of the Lord's pilgrimage to Gayadam and how the showers causeless mercy upon Ishvara Puri by accepting him as his spiritual master. The Adikanda is a reservoir of the Lord's never-ending pleasurable pastimes. In the future, Srila Vyasadeva, the greatest of sages, will describe other pastimes. However, herein I reveal the early pastimes of the Lord up to the time he returns from his visit to Gayadam. In Madhyakanda, the Lord's omnipotence becomes known, and gradually his devotees are identified as they collect around his lotus feet like bees around honey. Chaitanya reveals his absolute identity as Lord Narayan by sitting upon the altar of Vishnu in the houses of Sri Adwaita and Srivas Pandit. Sri Chaitanya meets Nityananda Prabhu, and together the brothers make wonderful Krishna Kirtan. Then Nityananda's vision of the transcendental six-handed form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described. Later, the Lord exhibits his universal form to Advaita Acharya Prabhu. Nityananda's Vyasa Puja has been described in Madhyakanda along with the story of how he was slandered by some faithless atheists. Thereafter comes a description of Lord Chaitanya's manifestation as Balaram when Nityananda gives him a plough and club. The wonderful redemption of the two reprobates, Jagai and Madai, who were later to become quite famous, is told in detail. Sachimata's vision of Sri Chaitanya in a blackish complexion and Sri Nityananda in a whitish complexion is also discussed. In the Madhyakanda, Lord Chaitanya shows his unlimited opulent Mahaprakash form for 21 hours. On this occasion, he reveals the transcendental truth about himself and the internal identities of all his devotees. Thereafter, Lord Chaitanya, who is Narayan, the Lord of Vaikuntha, and the supreme absolute reality, dances and chants as he narrates the truth about himself. Further, in Madhyakanda, the Lord breaks the chant Kasi's pride, and manifesting his own spiritual potency, he engages in continuous congregational chanting. By the Lord's grace, the chant Kasi accepts devotional service. Immersed in ecstatic bliss, Sri Chaitanya thereafter moves from village to village, performing kirtan. The Lord declares the truth about himself as he exhibits his Varaha Rupa, a four-armed form, while riding around the courtyard upon the back of his devotee Murari Gupta. The Lord also eats some rice that Suklambara had collected by begging, and performs many wonderful pastimes in his manifestation as Lord Narayan. In the Madhya Kanda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears before the devotees in the guise of Mahalakshmi and Rukmini Devi, the universal mother, and breastfeeds all the devotees who are her dependent sons. The Lord chastises Mukunda for keeping bad company, and later, when he is satisfied with Mukunda's obedience, he favors him with divine grace. Then there is a narration describing the ecstatic all-night kirtan in Navadvip, which are held regularly for a complete year. Madhya Kanda describes the mock verbal fights between Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Acharya. Only a foolish person thinks that these are actually disagreements. Then the Lord instructs his mother and simultaneously warns the whole world about the grievous consequences of offending the Vaishnava devotees. Satisfied by the prayers of his devotees, the Lord gives individual benedictions to each of them. Srila Haridas Thakur receives Mahaprabhu's mercy, and the Lord shows compassion towards Sridhar by drinking water from his pot. In the Madhya Kanda, Sri Chaitanya blissfully performs daily pastimes in the water of the Ganga with all his devotees. Once, he and Nityananda Prabhu visit the house of Advaita Acharya for a particular reason. Here in the Madhya Kanda, there is a description of the Lord's severe chastisement of Advaita Acharya. But finally, the Lord shows immeasurable grace on Advaita. Then the Madhya Kanda describes how the extremely fortunate Sri Murari Gupta becomes enlightened about the identities of Lord Chaitanya as Krishna and Nityananda as Balaram. The two supreme personalities dance in ecstasy in the house of Srivas. In the Madhya Kanda, the Lord explains the entire philosophical truth about human life, using Srivas' expired son as the speaker. In this way, he alleviates everyone's suffering. News of this incident spreads far and wide, and by the Lord's grace, Srivas overcomes the shock of his son's death. In another story, narrated in Madhya Kanda, the Lord throws himself into the Ganga, and Nityananda Prabhu and Srila Haridas Thakur lift him out. Then Srimati Narayani receives a treasure desired even by Brahma and the demigods. She receives the remnants of the Lord's foodstuffs. The final story in the Madhya Kanda is the pastime of the Lord leaving home and accepting the renounced order of life for the salvation of every living entity. There are uncountable pastimes of the Lord in the Madhya Kanda. Srila Vyasadeva will describe later whatever remains untouched. As the Sesha Kanda opens, Vishvambar is in the sannyas order of life, and he accepted the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He has shaven his head clean, thereby plunging Advaita Acharya Prabhu into deep despondency. Sachi Mata's suffering is unbearable, yet she is sustained by the Lord's mercy. Nityananda, the manifestation of Balaram, smashes Chaitanya's sannyas danda, and thereafter the Lord conceals his real identity and goes to Nilachal Puri. Chaitanya playfully dupes Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when they first meet, but later he exhibits his six-handed form to him. The Lord mercifully graces King Prataparudra with devotional service and lives thereafter in the house of Kashi Mishra. During Chaitanya's stay in Puri, both Swarup Damodar and Paramananda Puri become eligible to serve the Lord in the most confidential relationships. Seshakanda also described Chaitanya's trip through Bengal upon his way to Mathura and Vrindavan. He stays in Vidya Vashapati's residence before moving on to the village of Kulia in Bengal. Millions of people gather to see the Lord upon his return to Bengal, and all who see him are liberated. Chaitanya attempts to continue upon his trip to Mathura, but after a short distance he turns back to Bengal. Soon the Lord returns to Nilachal and engages there in continuous kirtan with his associates. He sends Nityananda to preach in Bengal, while he remains in Nilachal with a handful of devotees. In the Seshakanda, the Lord and all his devotees dance ecstatically before Lord Jagannath's chariot. Lord Chaitanya's travels to Rameshwaram in South India and his journey to Mathura through the Jharakanda forest are also described in the Seshakanda. Later the Lord showers his grace upon Rai Ramananda and reveals other divine pastimes which he had performed in his previous appearance in Mathura. In the Seshakanda, the magnanimous Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also graces the two brothers, Dabir Kasha and Shakara Malika, by revealing his supreme identity to them. He liberates and renames them both. They become the famous Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. In Seshakanda, the Lord's travel to Varanasi are described. The sannyasis of Varanasi could not recognize the Supreme Lord because they were too critical of the Vaishnavas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thereafter returns to Nilachal and becomes engrossed in congregational Hari Kirtan throughout the day and night. Sri Nityananda travels throughout India as a wandering mendicant. His pilgrimages are described in the Seshakanda. Who can understand Nityananda's unfathomable transcendental character? He roams about Mathura with ankle bells upon his feet. On Sri Chaitanya's request, he goes to Panihati and distributes devotional service, love of Krishna, to everyone. Through his causeless mercy, he saves Nahamala Roy and other merchants of that locality. In the Seshakanda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's remaining 18 years in Nilachal is described. In this book, although numerous pastimes are related about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Vedavyas will later tell them all in detail. Nityananda Prabhu finds endless joy in glorifying Lord Chaitanya, and he is an unmatched expert in that art. O Lord Chaitanya, please bless me so I may receive the transcendental service of Nityananda's lotus feet. He is the Lord of the entire universe. At the very outset, I have narrated in brief the contents of this book. All of you please hear with undivided attention the pastimes of Sri Krishna Chaitanya that follow in the later chapters. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, offer my humble song at their lotus feet. Adikanda Chapter 2. The appearance of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the beatific Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Sri Jagannath Mishra's son and the Supreme Lord of all. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, the life and soul of Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Gadadhar Pandit. All glories to the shelter of Sri Advaita Acharya and the unlimited devotees. All glories to Lord Sri Gauranga and his associates. One receives loving devotion to the Supreme Lord simply by hearing transcendental topics about Lord Chaitanya. Repeatedly, I offer my obeisances at the Lord's lotus feet and at the lotus feet of all his associates, praying that the pastimes of the Lord may appear upon my tongue. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, the ocean of compassion, and all glories to Lord Nityananda, the embodiment of loving devotional service. The spiritual truth of the brothers, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, as both the Supreme and as servitors of the Supreme, is incomprehensible. Yet, by their causeless mercy, their absolute identities are revealed. Lord Brahma was enlightened about the absolute truth by Lord Krishna's mercy. Srimad Bhagavatam and all Vedic scriptures describe this. The Srimad Bhagavatam states, "May the Lord, who in the beginning of creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and thus inspired him with the full knowledge of creation and of his own supreme self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me." In the beginning, Lord Brahma did not have the power to see anything, although he had been born upon a lotus from the Lord's navel. However, when he completely surrendered himself to the Supreme Lord, the Lord, by his causeless mercy, appeared before him. This mercy enlightened Lord Brahma with absolute knowledge of the Supreme Lord, the origin of all incarnations. Thereafter, spontaneous pure glorification of the Lord sprang from Brahma's mouth. Without Lord Krishna's causeless mercy, it is impossible to know the truth about his incarnations. His supramundane pastimes are inconceivable and inaccessible. Lord Brahma has described in the Bhagavad Purana, "O Lord of the universe, O Supreme Person, O Supreme Soul, O Lord of the mystics, how marvelous you are! Who within the three worlds can know when, where, why, and how you expand your internal spiritual potency, Yogamaya, and perform your transcendental pastimes? Who can fathom the reason for the descent of Sri Krishna to this world? Therefore, I can only submit the conclusions of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad Purana as reasons for his appearance." In the Bhagavad Gita, 478, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself, in order to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I advance myself yuga after yuga. Whenever religious practice becomes weak, irreligion gradually increases. Thereafter Lord Brahma and the demigods humbly request the Lord to appear, protect the pious, and destroy the demons. In order to re-establish the religious process of the particular age, the Supreme Lord descends upon the earth with his eternal associates. The religion for the present Kali Yuga is the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy name, and in order to propagate this religious process, Lord Chaitanya has appeared as the son of Sachi Mata. It is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, incarnates solely to propagate the congregational chanting of Krishna's holy name. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.31-32, O King Nimi, devotees always offer prayers to the Supreme Lord Hari. But now I will explain how the devotees in the Kali Yuga offer the choicest prayers accompanied by various rituals and regulations for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. In this age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associate, the servants, weapons, and confidential associates by the performance of Sankirtan Yajna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, is propagating the essence of all religion for the age of Kali, the congregational chanting of Lord Hari's holy name. Accompanied by his associates, the Lord has appeared in Kali Yuga simply to establish the religious practice of congregational chanting. According to the Lord's desire, his eternal associates appeared before him, taking birth in human society. Anantasesh, Shiva, Brahma, the sages, and other associates of the Lord all took birth as highly elevated pure Vaishnava devotees, known as Bhagavatas. Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, knew everyone's position and identity. Most of them took birth in Navadvip, yet some were born in Chattakram, Radhadash, or Srihata, and still others in Orissa. All these associates appeared in different places, but everyone met in Navadvip by the arrangement of the Lord. Srivas Pandit, Sri Ram Pandit, and Sri Chandra Sekhara are personalities worshipped in all three worlds. Sri Murari Gupta can cure the disease of material entanglement. Vaishnavas of this caliber appeared in Srihata. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, the foremost Vaishnava devotee, Chaitanya Ballabha, who was very dear to Lord Chaitanya, and Vasudev Datta all appeared in Chattakram. Haridas Thakur appeared in Bhutan. The village Ekachakra is in the Radhadash district of Bengal. The Supreme Lord Nityananda made his appearance there. Lord Nityananda is factually the Supreme Father of all living entities, but to show mercy upon Hadai Pandit, a Brahmin and pure devotee, he took birth as his son. Lord Nityananda is an ocean of mercy, the shelter of all Vaishnava devotees and the giver of devotion. He appeared in the district of Radhadash, expressing their happiness at the appearance of Lord Nityananda. The demigods made joyous sounds and showered flowers. All this was performed unseen by ordinary mundane eyes. From the time of Nityananda's appearance, the Radhadash district grew increasingly prosperous, day by day. Sri Paramananda Puri, who was Lord Chaitanya's close associate in Nilachal, appeared in Trihut, in Mithila, Bihar. When the lands on the banks of Mother Ganga are all places of pilgrimage, why did the Vaishnava devotees appear in impious lands? Chaitanya himself descended on the banks of Mother Ganga, so why did his eternal associates appear in faraway places? In their travels, the Pandavas avoided countries devoid of the sound of the holy name of the Lord and the waters of the Mother Ganga. Lord Krishna Chaitanya, being compassionate on the unfortunate souls born in those lands, arranged for the pure Vaishnava devotees to appear there. His own appearance was required to redeem the material world. In order to accomplish this, He arranged for his pure devotees to take birth in impious lands and in impious families. Wherever and in whichever family the pure Vaishnava devotee appears, he is able to purify everyone there by his pure spiritual potency. The birthplace of a pure Vaishnava becomes a place of pilgrimage. Therefore, the Supreme Lord Chaitanya arranged that his associates take birth in many different places. Although they were all born in different places, they met as if by accident in Navadvip. Lord Chaitanya's birthplace was Navadvip. Hence Navadvip was the meeting place of all the devotees. The glories of Navadvip cannot be compared to any other place in the world. Knowing of Lord Chaitanya's descent in Navadvip, Providence made it a prosperous and flourishing town to receive the Lord. Who is capable of describing Navadvip's opulence? Hundreds of thousands crowded to bathe on the banks of the Ganga. By Goddess Saraswati's grace, the residents of Navadvip, of all different ages, were learned exponents of the scriptures. The people were proud of their material knowledge. Even young boys argued logic with senior scholars. Students came from different parts of the country to study in Navadvip. Because in Navadvip they could get a high training and taste in scholastics. The number of students in Navadvip was incalculable, and the exact count of teachers was undetermined. The residents were content, blessed by the favorable glances of Rama, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, but they wasted their time and spending money for sense pleasure and other worldly affairs. As they had grown prouder and more materialistic, the people's taste for devotional service to the Supreme Lord had decreased alarmingly, and the beginning of Kali Yuga had ushered in immoral activities. We stop here? Yeah. Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Ki Jai. Adhikanda chapter 2 Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sarva Bhavana Das Ki Jai. Jai Srila Gurudev. Hari Yaraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Gopala Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghuna. Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha. Sri Jiva Gopala Sri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Raghunatha. Echai Gosai Puri Charana Bandhana. Echai Gosai Puri Charana Bandhana. Yahute Vijnana Savishta Purana. Yahute Vijnana Savishta Purana. Echai Gosai Jamuri Tarada. Echai Gosai Jamuri Tarada. Sansara Tarare Nimara Vimalacharya Maharaj ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Sri Acharya Vrinda ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Om Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishoras Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Sachi Devi Dasi Thakur ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Sabhashara Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai. Sabhashara Sri Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kundu Radha Kundu Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani ki Jai. Ganga Yamuna Jiva ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki Jai. Sri Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Dham ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Sri Purushottama Dham ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Jiva ki Jai. Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat East London Chapter ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat West London Chapter ki Jai. Samadveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Samadveta Vaishnava Mandala ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande